Okay, that's done.
All right, it's all yours, Christine.
Okay, thank you. I do have participant listing up on my computer here. So I would just ask that if and when someone wants to speak, if they would raise their hand, which is the courtesy, and I will then recognize you. So I will call the meeting to order, and I would like to begin by acknowledging and honoring with gratitude that land on which we gather is the traditional territory of First Nation elders and peoples who have lived and continue to live here and have cared for these lands. And I think I went through the etiquette already. With the exception that if you are not speaking, please mute your microphone and please vote by waving your real hand. So there have been a couple of additions to the agenda. I would ask the recording secretary, Councillor Moslin, to make reference to the changes that he had made to the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Can you see the agenda now?
No, you've got to scroll down.
Okay, thank you. So you do see part of it. Okay, I have basically two minor items to add, Chair. I wanted to hear an update, if I could, from Boundary Family Support Services on the coldest night of the year. Darren and Teresa mentioned it last time. You know what? If there's anything else they want to get us to, or at least encourage us to join in. And the other a little bit of business is just to bring, Mark, to bring the attention of the groups that a lady by the name of Deborah Krause, who I was working with on the point in time count that didn't happen in March 2020. The proposal is, you know, do you want to do a point in time count in 2021 or 2022? So just to bring that decision up to the meeting and to hear what they have to say on it. Just those two items, Chair, if that'd be fine.
Thank you. One thing that I think we should also add is the election of a new chair.
Okay.
I know John DeHaan and I have been co-chairing, which is fine. But if there's someone interested in taking on the chairmanship's role, that would be fine as well. So I would ask for a resolution to adopt the agenda as circulated.
Can we say as amended?
As amended.
Thanks, Chair.
No, I can't see anybody's hands. Thank you. So Juliana Chadwick raised her hand to adopt the agenda. And I need a seconder, please. And if you could use your raise hand on the participant page, makes it easier for me because I can't see everybody.
Deborah Baker's waving her hand, Chair.
Oh, is she? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'll ask for a vote, please. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion is carried. I would like to have a motion to adopt the minutes of the December 16th regular meeting. And again, I can't see hands. So if you click on the participant button, there will be on your right-hand side the participant list. And I would just ask that you go there if you're going to speak or make a resolution or adopt a resolution, so that I can see your hand. So again, I'm going to ask for a resolution to adopt the minutes of January the 16th. May I have a mover, please? Ally
I'll move it.
Dickinson? And I need a seconder, please.
Darren, I think, is seconding, Chair. Jan, can you see faces? Can you see? You're muted,
You're
John.
muted, Jan.
I got a second from Darren Pratt.
Thank you. So if you guys can see the who's on the screen, then I will delete this and I will ask you to let me know who has moved and seconded. Are there any errors or omissions on the minutes? Hearing none, I would ask for a vote to approve the minutes and adopt the minutes as circulated. Anyone opposed? Then I'm going to declare that the minutes adopted as circulated. Reports from members. I would like to ask for an update on the winter shelter at Hardyview Lodge. So Teresa or Darren, if you could speak to that.
Got this one, Madam Chair. So shelter opened, as you all know, on December 2nd. To date, we haven't had any formal complaints from the neighborhood, and I haven't heard anything from the city. So I'm assuming that no news is good news from city staff as to complaints at that end. We're averaging 9 clients per evening. We were up to 15. We were at capacity over the holidays. So during that 25th through the 29th, we were at full capacity. Our low point was 6, and again, our high point was full capacity. So yeah, we're just kind of plugging away. It's turning out to be a great space. We had some concerns about the sight lines and the ability to ensure safety, but it's working really, really well for us.
Thank you. And again, I'm going to put Darren or Teresa to report on the COVID vulnerable population.
We don't have anything to update on that, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Update on the moto by the city. Chris, did you want to take that, please?
Yes, I think most people are aware that the city did hire a contractor to go up there and to remove unoccupied shelters comprised of basically, I think of one trailer, one camper, as well as remove other items. It was, it did more from 1 day to 3 days work, but it has been done. The site is cleaner, at least a little less cluttered. Some barriers are in place. Most of which that have been placed have been driven around. Anyways, so that is continues to be site continues to be supervised and maintained by the city. I hope I've covered it all. If there's any questions, I'll try to answer them. Okay, I see Anne has a question, Chair.
Thank you. Ann Palmer?
Thank you. I was wondering if you had any costs on the what it costs to actually remove everything and clean it up.
Well, yeah, the cost was reported as $6,000, but that's just this event. That's not, Moto has been a cost to the municipality for, I'm going to go out on a limb here and I'm going to say decades. Yeah, this latest episode has been a cost, but that site has been a cost for a long time. So $6,000 covers this event. I hope that answers your question, Ann, because I don't, you can't even begin to figure out what it would be for all the times that it's been cleaned up.
And if I might just add that there's been discussion, particularly on Facebook, with respect to the city contracting this removal out and not having our own staff do it. And our staff have a work plan that they have to deal with. They can't afford the time and the days that it would take to clean that up, nor do they want to interact with the homeless or subject themselves to needles and the like. And so by contracting it out to people who are professional and know how to handle this kind of a situation, in my opinion, as a city councillor, it's money well spent. Any other questions on that? Okay, Anne, I see you've got your hand raised.
Sorry, I'm just wondering if there's anything in the works that city is planning to end up without anything up there, no trailers and camping, because there's still the ongoing problem that the possibility of fire and sweeping across and taking out the heights, and you must have some kind of a plan in place, I would think.
Well, that is the hoped for, to have the, I think there's a couple up there. I'm not sure how many, I don't recall, still there. But it is hoped to have that place cleaned up and all of the encampments removed. But that's not going to be happening anytime soon, I don't think.
Just to speak to a couple of the issues, the city, but probably the city is going to try to improve the fire guarding up there. You know, in an operational sense, that might be a grader on those roads. So that's a possibility for of a future improvement. The challenge of the site is really, what is the purpose of the site? You know, is it where kids go to have pallet parties? Or is it where somebody who can't afford to live goes and camps out up there? Is the purpose of the site just to lay empty and let people walk through it? Would be nice. It's been also been used as a dirt bike track, and actually the moment, you know, a pump track for years. So anyways, trying to let the site define itself, or the community define the site. You know, certainly any suggested uses I'd be willing to listen to. Thank you.
John DeHaan, I see you've got your hand raised.
Thanks, Christine. Yeah, this question is for you guys as well regarding Moto. Chris, you mentioned that the you know, one of the challenges was to define the use of the site in the first place. Was that not a gravel resource for the city as well? Like, wasn't there was a pit up there? Is it not a valuable resource in that sense? Like, I think there's a lot of gravel in there still.
You know, you're right. It might have been an historical pit, but I had nothing in my memory. But it might have been, or even a private one, perhaps.
I don't recall that.
But as to the value of a gravel pit, the city has already just gave up the other gravel pit. So I don't think it has much use there that way. But, you know, thank you for you know, the reminder of that use.
Okay. Is there anybody else that wants to comment? Okay, I don't see anybody. So then I will ask for the update on the housing needs assessment. And again, Chris, I'm going to impose on you, please, to speak to that.
Yeah, this, I wanted to bring it up. It has just been released into the public domain. It did involve a public survey. And Mr. Pratt was was on the steering committee of this assessment. Everybody, you could find, if I can, I'm gonna share my screen, Chair.
Fine, that would be very good. Thank you.
Yeah, you know what, Chair? Uh, sorry, Chair. If people can just wait just a second, sorry. I thought I had everything ready, but I guess I didn't quite have this one. 1 second.
Technology is wonderful when it works.
Well, yeah, and I'm trying to anticipate everything too. Okay. So here we go. I'll go back to Zoom now and share. Okay.
There we go.
Whew, okay. Yeah, rather than share the whole document with you, the group, I just want to, these are just highlights that I took out of the document. And there's a couple of them that I really, I would like to hear what any member of the advisory group has to say on some of them. Okay, I think you heard, remember BC Housing said when they presented at the last meeting that they needed a housing assessment. Well, you know, here it is. It was in the works then. The report was completed by City Spaces and was based in part on the 2016 census. So a lot of the information is a little bit dated. There is a boundary poverty reduction plan coming. I've seen a draft of it. The housing needs assessment is a requirement in provincial legislation. It must be completed every 5 years. Seniors are the group most in need of housing in this region. An increasing population of homeless all across the region. There's a need for year-round emergency shelters in Grand Forks and Trail. There's a projected drop in housing needs in the next 11 years because of a population drop. Oh, that's a head scratcher. 2018 flood exacerbated existing housing shortages, yeah. Grand Forks housing gaps include a year-round shelter, transitional and supportive housing, a youth safe house, low-end market rentals, family-oriented housing, and market condominiums. 60% of Grand Forks housing was built before 1980. There are 142 non-market housing units in Grand Forks. 28 for low-income families, 28 for seniors, 39 senior supplements, 17 senior supportive, 7 special needs, which I think is unique, 12 for women and children fleeing violence, and 5 for homeless rent supplements. The demand for housing in Grand Forks will decline in the next 10 years by 267 housing units. That's a profound statement. Anyhow, manufacturing, construction, retail, healthcare, and social services are the biggest employers. There are 1,860 housing units in Grand Forks in 2016. About 2/3 of them were built before 1980. 43% of rental households spend more than 30% of income on rent. 30% is sort of the arbitrary marker for being not being rent poor. That is the appropriate amount of your income should be spent on rent. It's 30%, allows for everything else. Population will decline by 13% in the next 10 years. Members of the advisory group, I'd like to hear whatever comments you have on any of those points. And I would also encourage you to download the original yourself. Go to the gfb.com website. It's brand new. And they have a tab called Join the Conversation. Anyhow, that's the highlights. So I don't know if I can, you might want to address questions about the report to Mr. Pratt. Or I'll try to answer them too, okay? Chair, I see John's hand.
Okay, I'll recognize John DeHaan.
Thanks, Christine. So I guess we're directing these questions at Darren. Darren, do you have any more background on the projected population decline? I read the whole report and there's something there that just leaves me cold. I can't figure out how they arrived at that determination. Do you have any information?
So just to make it clear, I was on the steering committee that helped formulate the plan to provide the contract to City Spaces to actually do this. So we put out a tender process 1.5 years for eligible entities to actually do this report, and City Spaces was chosen out of 5 finalists to do this. So Jada and her team spent over 1 year putting this report together. And when I spoke to her in the draft portion, it was based upon economic projections for the Southern Interior region. So they looked at Castlegar Trail and a net increase in population based on economic drivers. So if you look at the economic drivers of Grand Forks and the boundary, all of them are moving to net negatives. So that's what they were basing this upon. They were basing it upon the faltering of our economy locally and our aging population. So now this was pre-COVID. So we know that there's been a massive flight from urban areas to rural areas. We also hope too that there's a really good economic development plan that's kind of done for the boundary to kind of reverse some of these losses that we've had since, you know, in my mind, this really began back when we had that major cut to ministries and lost over 40 fairly high-paying ministry jobs across highways and forestry and conservation that were located here in the boundary. And I think since then, you know, we had the shutdown of Canpar, we had Pope and Talbot, you know, hit the ground, and then the rebirth as an Interfor location. Yeah, ECDev, I think, is the conversation that really needs to be had as part of this housing thing.
Can I have a follow-up, Chair?
Absolutely.
Darren, this is RDKB, so I'm assuming this is the boundary we're talking about here, or is it Grand Forks specifically?
So if you look at the report, actually, one of the requirements we had as a steering committee is that they break this down not only West Kootenay to boundary, because they're 2 very distinct regions. There's a housing assessment for each community. So it's made very clear that not only is the boundary different than the West Kootenays, Greenwood has different needs than Grand Forks, has different needs than Christina Lake, Midway, Rock Creek, all the way across. So the Grand Forks housing assessment is a snapshot of what we need. Then it also unpacks other communities in the boundary.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. That was my initial impression as well. One final question about it. I'm really kind of skeptical of documents like this, because what I see one possible outcome being is that the content may well drive the direction of the OCP as we move forward with regard to zoning, and perhaps, as you may or may not know, there's a bunch of us that have been lobbying for a couple of years now to get the regional district to loosen up on zoning with regard to a limited footprint secondary dwelling on rural agricultural property. And part of the argument in favor of that was that it would be a win-win-win. It would incentivize property owners to invest in their own properties, that it came as at no cost to the taxpayer, that it filled what we perceived as a gap with regard to a housing shortage, and that ultimately it would increase property values and increase tax revenues to the RDKB. Now, that's a significant zoning change that would be required. The ALR is also committed to reforming that piece in response to public demand. On the other hand, I see reports like this, which I fear act as a disincentive to the RDKB to make any of those changes. And so, I'm trying to weigh whether my skepticism on some of these statements is justified. When we speak to our real estate community, they would certainly disagree, as you mentioned, with regard to the influx of people we had. There's nothing for sale, and everything that gets put on the market goes really quickly. So anyway, that's enough said there. You understand my logic on that. I'm a little bit worried about this report guiding future OCP planning. Okay, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Is there anyone else that that has comment? Okay, hearing none, then we will.
Chair, I got to bring up a point, Chair, if I
Yes.
can. I don't, but I guess, and I would like to, hear again, encourage people we're not hearing from in the advisory group to speak up. The decision, do we need a year-round homeless shelter? Okay, I don't know. I really would like to hear from the professionals about the people who are dealing with the homeless.
You're referring to our guests?
On it. So, if I could direct that question to Mr. Pratt or to anybody else, any other members at the table. What are, why and why not to a year-round homeless shelter? Okay, that is going to be the debate, or maybe, I don't know when, but it is sort of the crux of it. And of course, the other thing out there is, do we need support of the transitional housing? Hope to. So that's my question. Perhaps Mr. Pratt, you could lead off on that.
I think you began to unpack it a bit, Councillor Moslin. It's not a one or the other. It has to be a comprehensive strategy. Just putting in a year-round shelter doesn't ameliorate any of the long-term problems. So what is the community and the regional strategy around addressing ongoing homeless? Just as a point of order, I'd like to step back. My colleague Jen Brown sent a message to all of us through the chat function earlier that, I would like it addressed, because what she pointed out is, this was back in the Moto discussion earlier. Her quote is, wouldn't it make sense then to support BC Housing attempts to provide a supportive housing site if Moto is to be deemed a hazard? So this is all part of that all-encompassing conversation of, yeah, are we going to look at a year-round shelter? And then what does the community see for supported housing moving forward? Because it all ties together.
Thank you, Mr. Pratt. Anybody else out there want to comment on this? I see Anne's hand, Chair.
Thank you. Ann Palmer?
Thank you. Doesn't this tie into what we've been trying to get off the ground, is the concept of the campus of care, which would ideally encompass all of these problems and take care of them? I understand that we had a committee put together. That's been a month, and they're not even on the agenda. Have they not managed to talk to anybody? I thought BCH was going to be giving them the names of the people to contact up at City Hall in Prince George, and the group that we're trying to put together the same sort of a campus of care, and yet they're not on the agenda today, and I'm wondering what's going on with that. Are we kicking it off the curb and saying we're not going to bother, or are we not going to continue with this?
That is on the agenda.
I
The
didn't see it.
under old business, the Campus of Care Action Plan, the subcommittee report.
I don't see it.
Well, it's on mine. It's under section 5.
Sorry, my printer ran out of ink, so I'm trying to find it on my smaller computer to
No,
figure out. But I didn't see it when I was looking for it.
Yeah,
But
everybody.
yes, it is on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments with respect to this this issue? Okay.
Chair, John
Yes.
DeHaan has his hand up.
Okay, he's muted and I can't see his hand, so,
And Deborah Baker as well.
okay.
Okay, yeah, my question is to just follow up on what Ann had to say. We were going to report out on the subcommittee, so you know, I'll wait for most of my comment until then. But I'm interested in what Darren had to say, because I think, you know, it's one of the things that we identified too in our initial discussion about the campus of care with the subcommittee. And, you know, that is the notion that supportive housing or a shelter or whatever initiatives are pursued down the line are actually going to take care of what are perceived to be long-running problems. Will, you know, supportive housing, a campus of care, a shelter, will it take care of riparian area camping or moto camping or camping in public spaces? That remains to be seen. I think that there's a reality, and Darren, you're more of an expert than I am, but from everything that I've learned, there's kind of an understanding that you're not going to get 100% buy-in from the people that currently, like, I'm thinking of moto, that are living in unserviced RVs up there. And I don't know that it's fair, I guess is the word I'm going to use, to assume that any of these services are necessarily going to cure all the problems. I would like to see a campus of care. I would like to target that initiative as much towards addressing our local need and problems as possible. But, you know, I think we've all got to be realistic here. That's in response to Ms. Brown's comment. I'm not sure that any initiative is going to eliminate the problem or ameliorate the problem, as Darren alluded to as well. So that's just my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And Deborah, I understand you also had comment?
I was just actually kind of on the same wavelength as John was. Just because I know, I mean, because my daughter and her husband had owned a home down by the BMX track, and they had people living in their shed recently, but it wasn't their problem anymore because that was one of the houses the city bought out. But see, so really, is having a year-round shelter going to prevent any of that from ever happening? I don't think so. I mean, we have a beautiful area that's always quite nice and warm. People like to camp. Just a thought.
Thank you. Anyone else have comment? Okay, thank you everyone for speaking to the issue.
Thanks, Chair.
So the next item on the agenda is an update on the community action team with the workshop for safe supply.
Yes, Chair, if I might, unfortunately, I was hoping I was going to have a couple guests here today whom I don't see. Is Jen Brown still online anywhere? I don't see her here either. That's unfortunate. I hope, because she also offered to speak on this. And I'm certainly not coming from any any point of expertise here. I have been trying to get anchors with Amanda Erickson. I reached out to Alex Yerstebitoff and to get somebody to make a presentation on the concept of safe supply and on harm reduction practices. And I know that Nelson, for example, has a system in place for a safe supply. I'm not too sure how it's done or what it involves. In fact, I was hoping to hear a lot more. Anyways, there's a workshop on safe supply. It's a Zoom thing and it's tomorrow. If anybody in the group is interested, you could probably look up Nelson Fentanyl Task Force and find a link to the Zoom meeting, or you might try anchors.ca and find a link to the meeting. Okay, so sorry, Chair, I was hoping somebody else would kick that can down the road.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Is there anybody here that is in a position to speak to that? Okay, don't think there is. So are there any other reports from members present that we haven't heard from? Let me see, what have we got here?
My apologies,
Yeah.
Chair. I was just added. Where are we at on the agenda?
Oh, we're at further reports by those present. It's part 4, the final item.
I'd like to encourage other members to give us a brief update on what they're done.
I was just going to go down the list of attendees. So is there anything from the Boundary Women's Coalition? Ally?
Nothing new to report, just that our services have been extremely busy since the holidays. Other than that, nothing new.
Can I ask a question about that, Chair?
Yes.
Ally, you say your services are busy. Can you give me an example of what kind of service and what kind of numbers we're looking at?
Yeah, our transition house. So our transition house in our last quarter, it ran over capacity, I think over 40 days. So we're funded for 6 beds. I think on average, we were supporting 9 plus kids. So it's just been full over capacity, and our second stage housing program will be full as of next week as well. And we have 10 units in that program.
Thank you very much, Ally.
Thank you. I'm going to, Tammy Battersby, do you have anything to report from the Blessings Boutique?
Thank you. No, I don't. Hoping that we can see a reopening of the drop-in after February 5th, but we'll follow whatever the government asks of us on that. So.
I don't see anyone from school district here. Deb Baker, anything from the DBA, Downtown Business Association?
Not at this time. I just kind of shared what was brought to me from the DBA regarding the year-round.
Okay. Melissa, do you have anything from the Whispers of Hope?
Oh, thank you. I don't think so. We're kind of steady as she goes here. Numbers have been going up. That's about all I can see. I wasn't sure if there was any more talk about the coldest night of the year and if there was going to be any involvement with the virtual event, because I was thinking we could open our establishment that night and serve hot chocolate, coffee, tea, something like that, maybe even host a pledge sheet, just kind of keep the community active however they can while still being safely distanced, that kind of thing. And I was wondering if there was a way that we could support mental health a little bit more, in that there's a lot of rhetoric that there are no services here. And while I agree that there probably need to be more services, we should probably, and I'm guilty of it too, I don't always understand or know what programs they're offering and what's available. And I just wanted to maybe mention to the group to make that little bit of extra effort, because it seems like mental health is a catch-all for blaming. And I want to see us there to support them and really understand and know what services are there and advertise that for them. So that's all I was thinking about.
Okay, thank you.
Chair?
Yes.
Again, can I press Melissa? Thank you, Melissa, for the report. And thanks for bringing up coldest night of the year again. Somehow it got past us on the amended agenda. Anyways, but I do want to ask you, Melissa, are you about your food? Are you still delivering food? And if so, what are the numbers? You talked about the numbers going up.
Yes. Oddly enough, not many people are taking us up on our deliveries.
Okay.
We've had a couple of seniors who recently had some surgeries, and that's limited their mobility and options. So we have been doing a few deliveries to them. Still very much an option for anyone that wants to call in and make those arrangements. In terms of our numbers going up, I mean, this month in particular, we did notice an increase. I'd say, I think our average last year worked out to be about 35 meals per day overall for 2020. And it's looking like for this month, we're closer to the 40 mark or higher than. And even yesterday, we served like 60 meals, which is kind of a record when it's not a special event. So, for example, our Christmas meals that we served Christmas Eve day, we served about 72 that day. That is definitely our highest record for daily meals in this location. But yeah, definitely seeing numbers that we weren't expecting. Last year, we see that about 12% of all of our meals went to seniors and 10% went to children. And anecdotally, I feel like the senior amounts are going to get higher this month alone. I've seen quite a few more seniors reaching out for services, but I don't necessarily want to quote that yet. We haven't even finished the month yet. But in terms of 2020, like I said, 12% of all meals went to seniors, 10 to kids. And I think overall, we served just over 8,000 meals. So it's been pretty busy over here.
Thank you very much, Melissa, for doing all that work. And thanks for the report.
Yes, okay. John or Ann Palmer, do you have anything further from the for the Citizens for a Better Grand Forks, which has changed its name and it's not on the
Community Coalition.
Yeah, we're the Community Coalition. No, but I would like to just ask a question. The thing that I'm noticing is that I'm getting a lot more people, older seniors, that just need someone to talk to. And I feel like I've hung up a shingle that says, you know, counselor on the boards. I'm spending a lot of time either emailing or talking with a lot of older people that are incredibly stressed out with what's going on with the COVID and how isolated they are. There's a lot that don't have anybody. They can't even see their family members. And I was thinking that it seems like in this day and age that unless you've got some kind of a series of letters after your name, we don't promote people just finding someone to talk to, someone that will listen, that will hear them and jolly them along a little bit and make them feel a little bit better about what's going on. And I don't know what the deal is right now. At one time, we used to do that years ago. But I'm just wondering, is there anything out there that says, you know, if you just need someone to talk to, you can phone this person and they'll spend the time on the phone with you? I'm just curious, because that I'm really noticing that I'm spending way more time than I used to doing that. So I'm just wondering what there is out there.
Thank you.
Chair Juliana has her hand up.
Okay, thank you, Juliana.
Hi, sorry. I'm with the Grand Forks Senior Society, and just in response to Anne's comment, it's been very difficult for us, and I would report that we still do not have a senior center. We are working with staff at City Hall. We still do not have anything. I just got bad news on what we're trying to get today, so it's a real long haul. But in response to seniors and speaking, there was a pen pal initiative that we had started. And Anne, if you make contact through email, I'll be happy to send you that information. And seniors we're corresponding with people either through email or actually handwriting letters back and forth to people, which is something. And now, right now, that's all there is. But there's certainly, if you make contact with me, I'm happy to give you that to you.
Yeah, thanks, Juliana. My staff used to always say to me, please, dear God, don't write us a message, send us an email. I have the worst handwriting on record. So if we can do it by computer, we're fine, or by voice.
Okay, does anyone else have comments?
I think Darren has his hand up.
Okay, Darren?
So Anne, both Maggie and Rachel have been running Better at Home for a year. So the referral previously was through BC 211. But if you're interested in volunteering to do check-ins through Better at Home, I'll send you a link after we're done. Because right now, I think we've got 8 volunteers in the West Boundary, and I think we're up to 12 or 13 in Grand Forks right now. So Better at Home is a United Way program that's funded through Boundary Family for non-medical home care. So if we were kind of not in COVID, our volunteers would actually be doing face-to-face in-home visits. But Rachel and her team are actually just doing a lot of video chat and a lot of phone calls. So if you're interested in volunteering for that program, by all means.
Okay, anyone else?
I've got a question, Christine.
Okay, John?
Just to follow up with Anne's comment and Juliana's with regard to seniors, I tried to get a program going early in the COVID thing with the 2 long-term care facilities to see if we could set up kind of a partnering thing with residents through FaceTime, and they didn't have much of an appetite for it because it was just another thing that staff would have to manage, and they had their hands full already. But you know, my vision was that there were so many people that were kind of locked up in these homes that couldn't see family, and that even if they had someone to talk to, that it would be awesome. But my question is for Juliana in particular, like what's your assessment of computer literacy with our senior population? Like, do most of the seniors that you work with, for example, have computers, and are they able to use them fairly effectively in the internet and so on?
I have to say yes. How I correspond with our seniors for meetings and such and information is through email. And I do get responses back from many of them. Those that do not have email, we sort of have a, somebody else will go next door and tell them about it, because maybe they don't have a computer. That there are not that many that do not have a computer or access to a computer. And personally, I've things that the secretary for the Senior Society, so I'm always talking to our members, and I find email works quite well for us.
Yeah,
Now, would they be able to access programs and such? That I don't know. But a little bit of training or something like that, I certainly would be able to help them go down. If it's a matter of having to bring programs in and onto the computer, that's a little more difficult for them, I think.
yeah, thank you.
Okay. I don't see anybody from Coins here. Or from the Sunshine Valley Community Services.
Okay.
Kathy Hutton, is there anything from the regional district's perspective? Okay, maybe she's, oh, Kathy, you're muted, so I'm going to take that as nothing to report. The Phoenix Foundation isn't here. Juliana has given us the seniors. Bev McCormick isn't here. Boundary Family Services have given us an update. And Elaine Pura, I believe, had to leave.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. And I see that Darren Pratt in our chat has given us phone numbers for Rachel Warrener, her email address, and her telephone numbers. Okay, so moving
Chair?
on.
Chair, can I've tried to bring it up. Melissa mentioned it. Can I ask Darren, how can we get involved with your coldest night of the year, Darren?
Thanks, Chris. So at this point, Rachel and I are co-leads on this. So what we need right now are captains. So what a captain does is they're responsible for recruiting 8 walkers, and those are the walkers that generate the pledges. So what we do is when you register as a captain, we then help provide all the links and the supports you need to start gathering your teams. We're encouraging certain rivalries in community because we know that there are a few folks that are pretty competitive that like to throw down gauntlets and challenge folks. So yeah, if we have folks in community who definitely have the capacity to wrangle 8 of their closest friends or enemies onto a team, we would love to have them reach out to either Rachel or myself. To Melissa's question around a site, because of COVID, virtual coldest night of the year will not have any localized sites. So that's just kind of meeting the provincial health authority because each one's been a little bit different. So Ontario's in a different state of lockdown than we are. So coldest night of the year national has just said, look, please do nothing in community at a static location. So we have it set up so that everybody who is running a team and has pledges, everything will be logged online. And we're actually encouraging the use of social media. So if we have a couple teams that are looking to really kind of get after each other, use Instagram and Facebook to post up your videos of what your progress is and where you guys are at, because you'll also be able to monitor that on the coldest night of the year page, because Boundary coldest night will have our own portal and our own page on the master site.
Okay, Darren, so basically it's a single night event, but if it's virtual, does that mean, what do we walk, I'm not going to be a captain, but I'll be a walker.
Chris, I'll walk you through the process. So let's say that John is the captain and the 8 of us who are visible on the screen right now are the walkers. So I'm responsible to go out and get pledges, hopefully around that $200 mark. And I commit to either a 1K, a 5K, or a 10K.
Okay.
So on the evening of the walk, I go out and I do my 5K walk and I put it up that I've completed it. Hopefully the people that have made their commitment to pay follow through. That payment is made through the portal. It's all online, and then that tax receipt will then go directly to the donor from coldest night of the year.
Thank you very much, Darren. That helps a little bit.
John, can you just take the chair for a couple of minutes? I have something I have to take care of. You're muted.
You're muted, John.
Sure, I can. I have to pull up an agenda. What's the next item, Christine?
It's the Campus of Care Action Plan Subcommittee report.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Yep. All right, so I think Tammy was going to report out on that. So Tammy, fire away.
Yeah, so short report really. We met, we had quite a lively discussion. Jan has made some inquiries to some supportive places in Prince George, and we're awaiting information on contacts for other ones. And then we're going to compile information to bring back to this table. What we're hoping to do, if I'm not mistaken, is give an idea of what the gaps are between the supportive housing and a campus of care model, and then more importantly, what would be most beneficial for Grand Forks. So, did anybody from the team have anything else to add?
Thank you, Tammy. I might add that you know, we're at the very fledgling stages of this. So at this point, like what we're trying to do is to attempt to compare and contrast different models to isolate elements from those and possibly generate elements of our own that we perceive as meeting the need locally. So, you know, that, you know, we're at the infancy, in the infancy of it. And you know, a lot of it is kind of isolating and identifying local needs. You know, what do we hope to do? What needs do we need to address? And, you know, there's everything from looking at assessing needs on through to figuring out what partnerships we might have to build as well. This is not going to be a short process. It's not like we're going to show up here in a month's time with a clearly articulated plan. Like I think we got a sense when we zoomed together how big a task this is really going to be. I would add that the people I talked to in Prince George, I spoke to the director of housing up there, suggested strongly that we look at this concept from the reality of it not happening all at once. And I've had this conversation more than once where we can expect, if we go through with it, to work towards implementing in phases. You know, a shelter might be phase one, and you know, obviously we're going to have the full meal deal idea on the table for people to see and aspire towards and plan accordingly. But it's not going to happen all at once, is what I'm saying. So, you know, we'll keep updating you. Okay. Anyone else have questions for Tammy?
Okay. Thank you, John, for sharing.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Sorry, Councillor Thompson. I was just curious who's on the team. So we've got Jan, Tammy, Teresa. Did we have a representative from mental health join? Because I know we had talked about that.
I've been muted. I didn't realize I was muted, sorry. So no, we did not have that person at the initial meeting. Would very much like to have a representative from mental health.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Thanks, Tammy.
Okay, anyone else have comments or questions?
Yeah, I do. How can you go about getting somebody from Interior Health and Mental Health in on this? Because I thought it was Interior Health actually that we were looking at to have sitting as a foursome on there.
So for clarification, Anne, interior health is the umbrella which mental health and addictions works under.
Yeah, I know.
So they're one and the same, right? And so it was specifically somebody from mental health that this table had asked for. But we were going to work with the lady from interior health that is not present today. So I'm sure one of us can give her a call.
So you have not reached out yet to get
I
someone
have
from?
not. The others may have. That wasn't on my task list.
Okay.
Okay. So Ally, your hand is up. Did you have something else that you wanted to ask or say?
Nope, just forgot to lower it.
Okay. Thank you. I don't see anybody else's hands up. So thank you for that report.
Sorry.
Appreciate-
Can I
Oh.
ask one more question?
Sure.
And this is kind of a little bit, might be actually more towards Darren than actually to the task force, but I'm just curious because we had talked earlier that in this meeting that there are people that we know will not take advantage of the help, but it seems to me that they will take advantage of the shelter in the winter. And so I guess what I'm wondering is if BIFAS has got any concept of how many people that we could be initially working with that might want the added help of a place to start to get the help they need, to end up with maybe a room of their own, work from there to perhaps we had talked about the tiny homes down the road, that kind of thing. Like, does BIFAS have a sense of what the numbers would be? Because if we're doing baby steps, then I hate to see us lose Hardyview is what I'm thinking along the lines there. And it's a large facility and obviously you're not using it all. And is there something that we can be looking to with the baby steps?
There's that chicken or the egg thing, Anne. It's, would people be more inclined if they knew that they had the ability to step up through the shelter into, smaller units of semi-supported housing? Yeah, it's again, chicken or the egg. We've always said that on average, even if we looked at last year at the shelter, there were 7 people that came through the shelter that were ready for next stage supported housing. They were in that place. This year, actually, we have a fairly different group. We only have 2 returning clients from last year. All of the rest are new shelter clients this year. The feedback from the team is that probably, again, the same number of 6 or 7 are in that place that if we had a turnkey small space for them to move into that was semi-supported, they'd be ready to do it. Now, I also know that previous to the shelter opening this year, I did a street canvas and there was about 8 people who were under the mistaken impression that the entire Hardyview was already operational for that purpose. And they were kind of doing, oh, hey, I can't wait to get my own room and my own space. And when I said, look, no, this is not what this will be, they were like, well, we're not interested in coming in. So when the feedback I had was, when you have the ability for me to have my own micro space of 200 square feet, let me know and I will be there.
Okay, thank you, Darren. Any other comments or questions on this issue?
I just wanted to say too, from what we're seeing here, I don't have any stats to provide on this at this moment, but we are seeing a real increase in the need for more supported services when women leave the transition house. We do have our second stage programming, which is going to be full. And then other than that, there's just not a lot of options. So we've definitely seen an increase in that. We're seeing a real decrease in mental health across the board. I think we can all say that as service providers. So I know we have a lot of program participants, clients that would be willing to look at supported services.
Thank you, John. I see your hand is up.
Thanks, Christine. Ally kind of created a segue for me here to ask this. In our initial meeting regarding campus of care, one of the points that was brought up, and I found it interesting, was that in effect, Raven Place, it has kind of fallen into the role of providing supportive housing. Not that I was left with the impression that it's meeting all the needs or would ever have the potential to meet all the needs, but I'm seeking some clarification on that, Ally. With women's transitional housing, do you see kind of an overlap in definition here where some of it in fact has become supportive housing? And Darren, would you concur that some of the low income units at the the non women's transitional portion of Raven Place are in fact very similar, if not identical, to what we would perceive as supportive housing at this point?
We have a few of our senior residents who are in that transitional point in life where they really shouldn't be living independently, but they're not ready for long-term care. So really those seniors require semi-supported seniors care. So that's really what we're seeing at Raven Place is, and we are not equipped for that. That was not the purpose of that building. And there really is no actual available stream for that interim place. There are discussions going on, and it was brought up in that housing assessment of there's a push to keep seniors at home longer. If that is the case, we need to do a better job of providing services to allow them to be in their home healthy and safely for longer terms.
I agree. We're actually seeing the same thing.
So-
Ally, can I get clarification on that? You're seeing the same thing with seniors?
Yeah, senior women.
Okay, all right. Thank
So
you.
are
That
all-
answers my question. Yeah.
Thank you. Just a question, are all of the rental units in Raven Place occupied?
Well, as you know, Councillor Thompson, we had an incident on January 22nd of 2020 that made 6 units out of operation. So we're to the point now where hopefully renovations are complete and they should be available for February.
Oh, I wasn't aware that there were 6 units that were not available, that had been harmed by an incident. So, okay, thank you. Anybody else have questions or comments on this particular issue? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Darren. Oh,
Tammy has her hands up.
okay. Sorry, Tammy.
I think I could answer your question, John, and maybe can at a later date too. The supportive nature of the housing at Raven Place is different than the supportive housing that BC Housing presented on. Unless I'm incorrect, the supportive housing BC Housing spoke of has 2 staff members on staff at all times, and interior health in those bubbles, and like you remember the bubble page of everything that was available. As far as I know, that's not what's being provided at Raven Place. I think there is a second stage, but that's not the same as supportive housing. Ally can clarify on that.
Yeah, it is not. So we do have staff on site 6 days a week, but it's not 24/7. And it's a program, right? So there's pretty large commitments, time commitments. We're working towards women learning to live independently. Is basically what that program is. And of course, it's specific to women only. So it's different.
But would it be safe to say, Ally, that the supportive housing has more involved than what you're offering there?
I think in some ways, yeah, definitely.
That was my understanding as well.
I think there's also that, element when we're looking at mental health as well, there's additional supports needed there that I know our program for sure can't provide, right? Especially not having that 24-hour staffing. Yeah, there's lots of different, I guess, needs. You know, we're seeing more and more addictions, more and more mental health. I know, Darren, you always talk about those being the same thing. So apologies for maybe not saying that correctly, but we are seeing an increase in that. And there has to be, in our program, capacity to follow through with the requirements of the program itself and classes we provide and things like that.
Okay, thank you. I'm just gonna go quickly see if I can see any hands up, and I don't. So I would thank you all for that report and the questions and the discussion. I think it's been really good. And I'm going to move on now to the terms of reference review and a report by the subcommittee. And I'm not sure who led that that review.
I think Chris would be doing that.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I'll try. We met via email, an exchange of documents on the terms of reference for the annual review. We actually worked on it mostly in November and early December, and got there and then put it on the shelf for this meeting. I did circulate a version of it for the meeting's review. I can bring it up on screen and share it if you like, Chair. Just there's a couple major points, and maybe Juliana and John can also comment. First, the insertion of seniors as a specific group. We debated, and basically how we got around it, the problem being that if you treat one specific group, then you have, you're dealing with the teens or unhoused women or people who are handicapped or disabled. And so basically what we tried to do is then increase the issues that the terms of reference covered, the concerns. And I think we basically increased by the use of the word accessibility. I identified that as an issue that crosses everybody's as a challenge for all groups. Stigmatization, I think. I know at first think, well, that's just the homeless. Well, no, I don't think so. There are other groups that are stigmatized, maybe to some extent seniors. Harsh to say, but they do face their own biases. Anyways, that was the intent of the revision, was to make those issues up there, as well as to clarify some of the operations of it. I have to apologize to a couple of the groups. I know that in the document I sent, I basically listed the member groups twice, once without contact information and once with contact information. And in the first list, I did forget a couple of our members. I forgot Coins. I think I forgot the Phoenix Foundation too. And so I will update that. And I'm certainly open to hear any other comments from John or Juliana, and as well as the advisory group on that terms of reference that we circulated. And if there's a need, Chair, I will bring it up on the screen.
Well, I have a copy of it for myself. The copy I have includes both the Phoenix Foundation and the coins.
I think that's on the final page. That is where there's an email contact as well.
Okay, so you were referring
There's an
to,
earlier list in the
Oh, I see.
document
yeah, okay,
where they were omitted. So I have tried to make that correction. That was brought to my attention by Tanis some time ago, actually.
oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, so is that the only amendment to the document circulated that you're looking at?
Can you see it now, Chair? Can you see the terms of reference? Yes, that was the only one I was, had amended. If you could see, this follows pretty much the original.
Mhm.
And I have added the Circle of Indigenous Nations Society, Phoenix Foundation, IHA.
Oh, okay.
Whoops, got a spelling error there. Whew, okay. Are there any other comments of it? I know John, Juliana, the three of us seem to reach a level of comfort with it. And so would recommend it to the group.
Yeah, I'd like to add a couple things, Chris.
Go for it.
Am I unmuted?
Yes?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thanks. Sorry, my screen just changed when Chris did that, so I've lost some stuff here. But one of the things that happened here, and I have to apologize for this too, is that we had three of us engaged in an editing process where we were highlighting and striking through and using different colors. And along the way, we kind of lost control of that thing because there was three of us editing. So the version you've got in front of you is just black and white, and it doesn't show the original language, side by side. So it's a bit of a challenge for you all. That's why, I have to thank Chris for getting this thing out so far in advance, because it really required everybody to have to read through it almost from the perspective of it being a new terms of reference, which it's an amended one. But there haven't been that many changes. We've refined some of the wording. And attempted to keep the spirit of everything that was there alive. There was one other addition in that, and I'm not sure what page it's on, but we talked about for anyone proposing changes to the terms of reference, that we needed a process there. And so what we came up with was the idea of submitting if indeed you think it's necessary to change the terms of reference, which is actually a pretty serious adjustment midstream in between review periods, which are scheduled now as an annual review, which they always were, but we've just stated in January. But given that if midstream there's a desperate need to change the terms of reference, what we'd like people to do is submit their suggestion for change at least 30 days in advance to the chair for consideration. And that would be along the lines of a point of order, because in most cases, I think it would be reasonable to think that there shouldn't be any change to the terms of reference until the annual review. And if there has to be a change midstream, that means it's something very serious. It can't just be on a whim. So we built that 30-day requirement in for the chair to take it into consideration, and then the chair would rule on it as if it were a point of order. So just so you're aware of that. That was another change. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank
And
you.
if I could just add one thing, there was the other change, I think, that just added and so like John and Chris have said, it's mostly all just tweaking here and there. The cap on representation to a group, we did add the line that there's only one vote per group. Just added that in. I think that was pretty understood, but now it's in writing.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Okay, is there anything else on this?
Well, Chair, if we're willing to accept it, I think a motion might be in order.
Yes, I was just going to ask for that.
I see a hand up, Christine.
Whose hand?
Melissa Scholga.
Melissa, did you have a question, or are you moving the motion?
No, actually, I do have a question, and I'm not sure if this is the place that it exists, but I don't know if we need to include like communication guidelines for public relations or for social media. Is that the appropriate place to define that kind of thing, is within the terms of reference, or is that something outside of that?
I
I
can speak to that.
go for it. I'll see if I can find it.
Back in, I guess it was October, we had just a bit of confusion around what was going out to the public. We were wrapping our heads around this whole Zoom format, and there were some references made in advance to minutes and Zoom minutes being circulated at City Council, which it was completely innocent. There was no ill intent or anything like that. But it kind of brought to the forefront the need to have an understanding within the terms of reference regarding to what we put out and when we put it out. And what happened is that the campus of care process was, or possibility, was brought up in City Council discussion, and it kind of caught on, and there was a lot of enthusiasm for it with council. And I guess the concern was that it was premature because our committee had actually not committed to the campus of care model, and it was being treated in council discussion as if it were a reality, and that the community would be looking forward to news about the campus of care, where in fact it was still just an idea, and that it would be a nice thing maybe, and it might be something that the committee would commit to working toward. So that, that's the scenario. That's what happened. So that brought about the idea. We already had communication guidelines in the terms. That kind of brought out the need to clearly articulate what would be going out and when. And so what we did was try to define what would be going out and through what media specifically, and what form it would take. So we agreed that, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm not looking at the terms, I'm just going from recollection, but we had the YouTube channel that Chris created for the Zoom minutes, and there's the, maybe, could you go to that? Oh yeah, here it is. Thanks, Chris. It's already there. Yeah, a Facebook group that was administered by Chris as well. And so, yeah, that's what you're referring to, Melissa, I take it?
Thank you, John. Kind of, like, I'm still unclear as to, like, I've tried to seek out the minutes, and all I could find was Les Johnson's YouTube page. And so YouTube is a good alternative, as well as for the minutes. I see that we've identified a public Facebook group administered by the recording secretary, but I don't actually know where those are being shared, or how to access them, or how to inform others to access them.
Oh,
So
okay.
hang on, sorry. I do want to clarify around that, but my initial question was more to do specifically, like, is there an official spokesperson? Is it the acting chair? Can they address public questions, or should questions be brought to the group? Do we need to agree on basic conduct or expectations for when answering these questions? Should these individuals be quoting minutes and documents, or is it okay for them to paraphrase? Those kinds of things. So yes, I appreciate that we're narrowing down on where the information is going to live for the public, but who represents the group and how is more what I'm talking about.
Well, obviously we haven't articulated that. Are you suggesting that there's a need then to do that?
I mean, I personally think it would be nice to know, like, if questions are being asked, is it okay as somebody that sits on the group to give my best answer? Or is this something that we should be directing to others? And I'm wondering the same for the group. Are people just acting as spokespeople to the best of their ability? And is that appropriate?
Well, that opens up, I'll answer that. I suppose that opens up a debate. I'm not sure. We didn't, I don't think that, no one brought any concerns regarding that forward, you know, up until this point. Now, you know, if it's something that you want, that you feel needs consideration here, the document's on the table for approval today. So given that, you know, you Chair, I think you could probably rule on this.
Well, I would just like to make the following comment, and that is, these meetings are open to the public. The media is invited. And so people that want to be informed about what happened at the meeting can approach, can come to a meeting, or they can read a report in the local newspaper or on the radio if the reporter for the radio station was at the meeting. So I don't think, in my opinion, and I'm no expert, that we shouldn't get too excited about reporting out. I think that this section of the terms of reference more than adequately deals with your concerns, Melissa. If you're commenting back to me, I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry, you guys. I just got a call as we were in the middle of all this, but I totally approve the terms of reference of where they're at now. I just thought there might be something lacking there. And so I'd be more than willing to, I don't know, write something up and present it for that whole 30-day put into consideration. I just wasn't sure if that was, it sounds like it is appropriate to include in this document if others feel it is necessary. I agree. So I don't know. I'm just trying to make sure that we're all covered here. And I personally am finding it difficult to get the information out to others or to have other people access it. So I suppose I personally need better clarity. Where do people find this? How can I direct them? I would rather direct people to the content than paraphrase or try to give them my version of it. I think that's better. So I just want to know how best to do that, I guess.
Can I respond to that?
Please.
Yeah, Melissa, Chris sends hyperlinks in his emails to us when he releases that information to his YouTube channel. So, you know, it's just a cut and paste for you to wherever you want to put it. Maybe what I'm sensing here is just there's a breakdown in communications one way or another. But that information is, Chris provides it every time he does it.
Yeah, if I might, Chair, just to add on to that, yes, I do try to provide the link to members in the minutes too now. The nature of a Zoom meeting is that it is recorded, or at least these ones are, so that the recording is publicly available, but there is an onus of responsibility on the members of the table to also broadcast and make available the information from this table. You know, the Facebook group is just, it's just the most public inert Facebook group I've ever seen. And just so that I could solely say, here it is, out generally to the public. So Grand Forks, if you look up on Facebook, Grand Forks Social Services Advisory Group, it's a pretty unique moniker. So it's not that hard to find on Facebook. It is just on Facebook though, I do agree. But remember that was a stopgap measure, as you'll recall, because in the previous terms of reference, it was going to be posted on 2 websites, which didn't want to do that. So anyways, that's the measure. And you know, the other, it is also the nature of Zoom that we are trying to cope with as well. And communicating it a bit. Anyways, yeah, but Melissa, if you do have, if you want to write something up, you could certainly forward it. And we'd even maybe run it by the subcommittee. And then if we think there's merit, bring it forward at an earlier time. But I think I heard also you speak that you would accept the terms of reference as they presented today.
Yes, thank you guys. I apologize. It's probably just me needing to familiarize myself a little bit better with these links and options. So thank you for that. And yes, I would vote in favor for the terms of as presented, for sure.
Are you making
I'll
that motion,
second that.
Melissa?
Sure, for simplicity's sake, let's say I make the motion.
I'll
Okay, and
second it.
who, I can't see who it is.
Tammy will second it.
Oh, Tammy, thank you. Further discussion?
Yeah, I have been raising my hand like crazy.
Okay.
I know, no worries. I just want to clarify because the Grand Forks site that Chris put up is a public site. Anybody can go to it. Anybody can get onto it. Anybody can see it. Anybody can join it. The only thing it doesn't have, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but you did turn off notification, or not notifications, but comments. So people can't make comments based on it. They just get to read it or watch it or do whatever. What they do with that, if they take that away into discussions in other groups or whatever, then you're not going to control that. And that's hopefully what you would want, because you would want to have more people talking about it, knowing what's going on and what steps are in place and how things are moving forward. Just comment on the whole thing there.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Then I will ask for a vote. All those in favor? And I can't see anyone opposed. Oh, Anne, you have your hand up? No?
No, my hand was up for favor.
Oh, for favor, okay. Anyone opposed? Not seeing anybody, the motion is passed. Okay, so we've got another about 15 minutes to the conclusion of the meeting. The next issue is the point in time count for 2021 or 2022.
This was put to me by Deborah Kraus, and I basically turned the question over to the professionals at the table here. Do you see the need for a point in time count this year? Can we put it off another year? Mr. Pratt, how would you like to go with this?
Darren, you're muted.
That's because I'm not saying anything, Chris.
Okay.
You don't want to get advices? Is there a need? Is there a need this year? We have the point in time that was done in August last year. Seems pretty good, and seems from this layman's perspective seems to be consistent with the numbers you're giving us in the shelter reports. But you know, I guess whatever. I
guess what I'll say to that, Chris, is my understanding is that the federal government was creating a mandate for communities in Canada to actually provide point in time data. So has that trickled down from the feds to the province to you?
No.
I think it will be.
You think it will come? If it does, then I'll come back to the committee and ask for their participation in a point in time count. Is that how you see this working, Darren?
Yeah, again, we have to ask the question, what are we collecting the data for, and for who? So is this because BC Housing is requesting this to help them make informed decisions around investments in our community? Is this for justification of development of programming? Is this for city council? We had a request from BC Housing and more specifically, the city requested this previous point in time count, which is why it was done. So who's asking for a point in time?
Well, I don't know if one is not deemed necessary and no provincial ministry has required it of us, then I'm well and good. If there is another study in the wings on poverty or a more specific homeless housing assessment, then perhaps it may become necessary. Anyhow, I basically, I see nobody jumping up and down saying we need one now. So maybe we'll just, I can safely say that I brought it up and we considered it. It'll be in the minutes, and everybody knows that if as Darren says, there's a trickle down, and it gets to me, I'll bring it forward back to the committee.
Thank you. And the last item I have is the election of a chair of the Social Services Advisory Group. Currently, John DeHaan and I have been sharing the duties. Is there anybody that would like to put their name forward?
Christine?
Yes.
One thing that I think it's important to reiterate at the table is that within the terms of reference, there is provision for a community member to assume the chair. It's not, according to our terms, restricted to people at this table. It would still be subject to approval from the table, but I don't know, maybe, if we're searching for a chair, which I think preferably we have a full-time chair, given that maybe somebody's got someone from the outside the table to fill that role. I don't know, and they could nominate and bring that to the table for consideration.
Okay, I like that idea. So then I guess that means you'll be chairing the February 17th meeting.
I'm happy to do this and alternate the chair on an interim basis, so long as it's with the understanding that we do this with the full support of the table. Yeah, so I'm happy to.
Okay, and then if the members at the table would perhaps consider and bring forward a recommendation with the consent of the individual they're recommending, that could be put on the agenda for February 17th.
Okay.
I don't think we need a resolution for that. So are there any other items that we need to be discussing today in our final 6 minutes? Nobody's hands are up. So hearing that, seeing nobody and hearing nobody, can I ask for a motion to adjourn this meeting? Ann Palmer? Don't think we need a seconder.
Darren, Ally?
Okay. All those in favor?
Okay.
Thank you for chairing.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Christine.
Welcome.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you, everybody. I thought it was a very good meeting. Got a lot of good discussion going on here. So I'll see you all, if not before, on the 17th.
Thank you.